we also need to forget about trying to make Palestine cool.
Right.
I don't think that that's the important thing. I think us being who we are and speaking the truth is starting to wake the world up. People are starting to connect the dots between all the things that are not cool in the world. What's happening to Palestine is not cool. And I think that we're not going to be the cool place. What we are going to be is a conduit for people to understand what else in the world is not cool.
Alana, welcome to Terwida. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we were just talking before we officially started recording about how important it is to uh, amplify our voices for ourselves, for each other. And you were saying with your experience now with the podcast that you're doing, and also with your social media, how much people learn, how much we learn from each other. But
Yeah.
but let's go back a sec and talk about Alana, who grew up as a Palestinian in the States. And, you obviously come from a family that is you know, is, is very much, equated with Palestine.
Yes.
Um, Tell us about your earliest memories and experiences that formed your Palestinian identity today.
I think it's interesting. I get asked questions kind of like this, but I've had kind of thoughts about it. And I think my experiences as a child weren't necessarily specifically Palestinian that I understood. I just had uh, a lot of culture, a lot of food, a lot of family, and I don't think I realized that I was being exposed to Palestine and Palestinian culture. I just thought that that was very normal. Um, and there wasn't a lot of conversation about it being specifically Palestinian until I think I was a bit older. And then I understood that I was Palestinian and that this was Palestinian and that this food was Palestinian and that this music was Palestinian and that my family was Palestinian. Um, and and after that, like any other culture that you're exposed to, I just was very proud to be Palestinian because I loved all of those things. I loved my family, I loved my culture, I loved my music, I loved my food, and so, it was like being exposed to being Irish or being Italian. um, you are it's part of your DNA and, you see it in your family and your life, and so it was a lot of the memories of my childhood were of being Palestinian. I don't know that I clocked it at the time, but, now I look back and I realize that my childhood was very Palestinian.
Mm. How did that how did that play out in relation to growing up American and, your identity? Was there any sort of clash at any point?
No, um, or at least not that I understood. Maybe there was outside of me, but, I was I was never told that I couldn't tell people that I was Palestinian,
Mm, mm,
so I did, and, just like I told them that I was also Irish,
mm,
um,
mm,
I brought friends over to my tita's house, and I you know, they shared dinners with us, and they met my family just like, a lot of other people did.
mm.
Um, I felt like my culture was my culture and I was supposed to be talking about it. And maybe that was something that I was normalized to as a child that we were to be proud to be Palestinian. But I just thought that everyone was proud of who they were. And so I was, telling people I was Palestinian, bringing people over, um, exposing them to the culture and talking about it. And maybe that was a product of my privilege, because I had a lot more multicultural diversity in my surroundings. But at the same time, um, you know, I don't think I realized until much later that it was slightly revolutionary for me to be as loud and proud of being Palestinian as we were.
Right. And you mentioned your teta, who was a big influence. In fact, as I understand, she was somehow able to replicate Palestine for you. The whole family was there. And tell us more about that.
So my father actually built a like a neighborhood, and all of my family members lived in it. So my teta had the house on the corner, and my aunts and uncles all had houses around. Um, and so, in a way, my father and my teta really, and my Jiddo, but he passed away when I was young, really embodied what it would have been like to grow up in Palestine. We would have lived on the same block or in the same neighborhood together. We would have been walking back and forth to each other's houses. We would have all come to my tate's house for dinner every night, which is exactly what we did. And I didn't realize until later, looking back, that we were being exposed to what life would have been like if we had been able to stay in Palestine. And she was giving that to her grandkids, but also to her children. Many of whom, most of whom, didn't get to experience much of their lives in Palestine. So,
Right. So,
um,
did everybody come at the same time to the US, or was it in different phases?
so my three of my aunts were born in Palestine. My father was born in Palestine. The rest of my father's 8 siblings were born, throughout the Middle East, on the way to the US. And then, they all came to the US together. My grandfather got a job, in the US, and so they were able to come. And, yeah, they grew up, in Virginia outside of DC, and, most many of my, aunts and uncles have passed away since, but, the rest of them live in DC, and they're still there. So, that was our home, and we made it that home, and my teta really contributed to making it feel like a real Palestinian, neighborhood.
Mhm.
And it was something that I really value, because I know it's not something that everyone gets when they, move out of Palestine or when they are in the diaspora.
Right. I mean, your teta was like a central figure. She reflects the role that women play in preserving traditions, but also your father is plays a big role. I mean, just recently he put a post with the family gathering around the table, and all the food is like what anab and manaish
Mhm.
and all that stuff, and he's so proud of it.
Yeah. I mean, everything is Palestinian from in my dad's home.
Yeah, yeah.
If he makes eggs, those eggs are Palestinian. Um, he it's very important to him, that we understand where things came from and that they are traditions from Palestine, that, the food that we're eating is Palestinian food, and that we understand what it means, to continue that legacy. And he has instilled that in us from day one. I'm not
Mm,
sure that we even realized that we were learning it, but we've all
yeah.
learned it since day one from him,
Mhm,
and from my other aunts and uncles and my grandparents.
mhm. So you're a very close family, and one of the things that I'm sure many people know that you are a creative family. So
We are.
you've said that your father he's not an artist, but he has the mind of an artist. Your mother's an interior designer. Tell us some of the creative influences you had growing up.
I do kind of think it's in our blood. I'm not 100% sure where it comes from. I would imagine Palestine. But we've always been encouraged to be creative. In our family, we weren't necessarily told not to be doctors and lawyers, but we definitely, were encouraged to draw and to paint and to be creative with our lives. And I think my father definitely has an artist's mind. He dreams the houses that he builds before he builds them. He's a dreamer and an artist, and I think, to find that. out of, being a refugee and coming to America and having to make it and to continue to be creative has, I think, instilled in us that you can be creative in any atmosphere in any place and with anything around it. And so I think all of us have strived. Maybe not. We've just been creative because it's part of our DNA and our blood and what we've been told was important.
Mm-mm. And you okay, you are obviously creative, but you studied political science and then
I
international
did.
relations. Like me, a degree where I was like, "Why did I study that?" Such a
Sorry.
waste of time. But yeah, then eventually you ended up in the fashion industry, designing, styling, and a little bit of modeling. Um, you had your own clothing line. Is it still going
No,
on?
I
That
don't
the
have it
dress?
anymore.
Mm. But in any case, you then, there was a big shift. I don't know how much you were an an activist in those years when you were, involved in the fashion industry, but certainly after October, you know, you threw yourself in there. Tell us a bit about that. Were you, or rather, when did you start being a voice?
Um, I think many Palestinians are kind of accidental activists. We don't really have a choice because no one has really spoken for us up until now. I think this is the first time that Palestinians are experiencing non-Palestinians speaking out on behalf of Palestine, and so we have had to be our own voice. And so I think um, I was always speaking about being Palestinian. I was always talking about what it meant. I was always very vocal about being Palestinian. And, I spent time in Palestine. I talked about that. But I think in 2021 was really a large shift for me. Social media was becoming a larger tool in the kind of activist arsenal in showing people the realities on the ground. And in 2021, it was really being used to show what was happening to Gaza, what was happening, the siege on Al Aqsa. And so I jumped on. I had been speaking about it a lot. I was in spaces. I don't know if you remember, there was an app called Clubhouse, and I
Mhm,
was quite active there
mhm.
and it reinvigorated my um feeling of necessity for us to speak our own stories. And so 2021 I definitely took to social media and made took a stand. And I think since then social media was my platform, but after October I felt like I needed to take it other spaces and really come out and make speeches and do teach-ins and really make sure that the education that I had gotten on my own people was also given not only to the rest of the world, but also to Palestinians who also needed to understand Zionist talking points and how to combat them and what the history was on you know on Palestine pre 1948 and post 1948. And so I use my platform for education, and I feel like it's important to connect the dots, and that's what I've been trying to do is to kind of break it down for people so that they can understand in a way that's not so complicated.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say gave your family so much courage to speak out from the beginning? Because you don't find that in all families. People trying to avoid problems, people trying to avoid backlash. Maybe privilege plays some role, but what would you
Sh-
say is the deciding factor?
Sure, I think privilege plays a role, but it also, with privilege comes a lot of things that can be taken away. So I think that, it wasn't like a conscious decision. We didn't like sit down around the table and say, "Hey, we're going to start talking about Palestine." It was everyone making a decision to say it in their own way. We're all individuals and, we speak for ourselves. But we also realize that we had said that we were Palestinian from the beginning. On our rise to celebrity, we'd always said that we were Palestinian. And so, as we've gotten here, we're not going to forget that we are Palestinian. And it's important for people to realize that, if they think that we're cool, they think cool people are Palestinian. And so we wanted to make sure that they realized that, and that there was a reason for us to speak.
Mhm.
We do have these large platforms, and there are so many people on them who are paying attention. And so, you know, I think Palestinians are courageous, but not because it's just in our blood, but because we've had to be for so many years. 77 years of having to be courageous, having to be brave. Um, no one really wants to have to be this brave. It shouldn't be a necessity to be this brave. But I think Palestinians somewhere in us inherently, because of 77 years of oppression, we've realized that we have to speak for ourselves. And so we've made a choice to do that. And I've specifically made a choice that, that Palestine needs to be on my lips and out of my lips all the time.
Right, I mean, it's clear that you do that, and but with that, you've faced pressure. You and your sisters have faced pressure. Can you give us, examples of times that maybe you were, asked to be quiet, or, there was a lot of pushback that you had to deal with?
I mean, I've had pushback. I've been asked to resign from boards of major charities
Mhm,
for my stance on Palestine, which is that I'm Palestinian and that no person should be bombed, oppressed, starved, murdered. So that's not really that controversial, but apparently it
yeah,
is when you're Palestinian. Um,
yeah,
I've lost jobs. They do it
mm,
quietly most of the time. It's just that people disappear, and less that they say, "I don't wanna work with you because you're Palestinian," because they don't wanna be, like, labeled, xenophobic or racist or,
mhm,
any of those
mhm,
things.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I've definitely lost work. I've lost so-called friends. I've lost, opportunities and places in which I valued, but um, I realized that those weren't important people in my lives if they, don't support me while I support myself and my people. And that those jobs were probably not jobs I wanted or companies I wanted to represent if they don't want to represent me. And so I have also found amazing organizations and companies that do want me to work with them. Um, and I feel very supported in that way. So,
You talk about it in a way that, it's an obvious thing, but was it a process for you? Was it a journey for you to get to that acceptance? Were there
oh
times
yeah,
when you were like, "What the hell is going on? Like, why is this person doing this? Or why am I not hearing back from these people?"
sure. Oh, of course. I mean, um, I think it was definitely a process. I definitely had to mourn and grieve the, like, losses of, supposed close friends and, jobs that I thought that I would be perfect for and things that I thought were, would be very advantageous, um, you know, for me. Uh, I am not a multimillionaire. I make all my own money and I have to find jobs to do that. And so it was definitely a lot to deal with, but I don't think I'll ever look back and say, well, I wish I had taken that job instead of standing up for humans who need people to speak about them, about Palestinians who are being murdered. I don't think I will ever look back and say, "Oh, I wish I did that job," instead of speaking out for what's right. I'm on the right side of history. I don't think that I'll ever regret that. So, yeah, it was a process, but it was a pretty quick process because I've been processing for a long time what it means to be Palestinian, and I knew that it was never gonna be really easy, and to stand up and say, "I'm a Palestinian," and so, that process has been long and drawn out, and now I'm at the point where I couldn't be prouder, and it couldn't be louder, and I'm not going to let anyone stop me. So
That's I mean, this is why wanted you to talk about it, because I think that there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of hesitancy. I've spoken to a lot of creatives who were like, we want to speak out, but then we'll lose all of our client base, and maybe they don't have the privilege, let's say, to, they can't afford to lose.
I think what I would say to them is, sure, and I completely understand. And there is something to be said about, so-called allies doing the work for us. Like oppressed people are always having to speak about their oppression and on their oppression. And now that there are so many people out there speaking, it is important for them to stand in front of us in a lot of ways. However, I don't think that you will look back and you will find that so many of the people that support you will come out and be willing to work with you because of what you're saying. I have found so many amazing businesses. I mean, I work for a Palestinian-led production company because I wasn't afraid to say I'm Palestinian, and I wanted to work on Palestinian creative projects. And I found that. I mean, again, I know I come from a place of privilege. I'm not gonna pretend like, my name and my platform don't have uh, a skin in the game. But I do think I've seen so many people who have taken a stand, and our community has supported them. And so I do think that there is a place for you, and we are creating those spaces for people to feel more safe. Like we need to create what freedom looks like now, and what freedom looks like now is places like Watermelon Pictures and Watermelon Plus, and all of the amazing brands that have, come out and said that they're Palestinian, and all of these different places that you can feel safe to do what you want to do, and speak out. So I think that there are those spaces and they're coming, and you taking a stand will also lead to a lot more, and something that is going to feel good. You're going to feel good doing it while you're
Yeah.
making money.
Yeah. So you have used your platform quite creatively to serve the cause. I'm talking about, trying to outsmart the algorithm by doing makeup videos while you're on a rant about what's going on. So what have you learned about the algorithm, about outsmarting it?
I mean, it's ridiculous what we have to do to be able to speak about Palestine, or, educate people. But I've learned that the algorithm pays attention for about the first 15 seconds, and then you can kind of do whatever you want. So if you post a smiley picture of yourself, or if you start out smiling, that always helps. Um, Doing, get ready with me videos have been something that I've gotten into because that kind of tricks the algorithm. I've posted like quote unquote like thirst trap pictures. And then when you scroll, they're educational. There's a lot of ways around the algorithm that where you can be educational. But, you know, at the same time, there are a lot of people who are paying attention. And I think there are specific actual humans and not just AI that are watching for Palestinian content. And so you do have to be quite creative when it comes to the content that you put out. And I know that I've had a shadow ban on me for since 2021. So the numbers I used to get when I had half as many followers on my story are completely different than the ones I get now. So my story views are about, I don't know, a third of what they were pre 2021.
Wow, I'm really surprised to hear that, because you're
Yeah, I
all
mean,
over my story. So why don't I just assume that everybody
well,
sees
that's
you?
that's that's by design. Social
Yeah.
media has
Yeah.
become siloed.
Yeah.
And so you're shown the content that you would want to see. And so if you wouldn't want to see information about Palestine, you're not going to see it unless someone specifically shares it with you or it's on their story. And and they have made social media into a group chat, and so we're only adding people in that we know are part of the movement, and it's very complicated, but that's the way that they've created social media, and they've been doing it for a while purposefully to make it non-political.
Mm, mm. You
Yeah.
mentioned before, you know, if it, about being cool, like if getting people to relate to you by being the cool Palestinians. So, how do we make Palestine more mainstream without diluting the cause and the messaging? And in other words, balancing between being cool and staying true to the cause.
I think there's a few different things that are important to that. One, we need more things, products, movies as we're trying to do. We need more things that are amazing that just happen to be Palestinian. You know, if you love a product, you sometimes you don't even realize who made it for a very long time. And so if we can continue to make amazing things, and we do, we're some of the smartest, most educated people in the world. We have the most postdoctorate degrees, post graduate degrees. We are some of the most literate people in the world. Palestinians are incredibly smart. And we're everywhere being smart, being doctors, being lawyers, being engineers, being creatives. So we need to create more things that people love that just happen to be Palestinian. And on the other end of that, I think that we also need to forget about trying to make Palestine cool.
Right.
I don't think that that's the important thing. I think us being who we are and speaking the truth is starting to wake the world up. People are starting to connect the dots between all the things that are not cool in the world. What's happening to Palestine is not cool. And it is and I think that we're not going to be the cool place. What we are going to be is a conduit for people to understand what else in the world is not cool. What else is funded by capitalism and settler colonialism? What else we can see that looks like um, the IOF, like militarized police forces. We are seeing how our own settler colony in the United States is mimicking the settler colony in Israel. We are seeing how Israel is involved in other places. So I think it's twofold. One, we need to create things that are Palestinian that are amazing and keep creating them and be unafraid to say that they're Palestinian. And two, we need to continue to educate people on what is happening in Palestine and how it relates to them. And I think with the social media platforms that we've created and the fact that regular Americans are just speaking about Palestine on their platforms, using like making food and talking about Palestine or doing their makeup and talking about Palestine, or, dancing and talking about Palestine. I think people are seeing that there's a necessity to talk about Palestine. Just like when my sisters were becoming celebrities and they would just say they were Palestinian, just saying you're Palestinian is powerful because then people are like, "What is Palestine and what do I need to know about it?" So,
Mm, mm. So you've mentioned watermelon pictures a few times. It's very exciting what's happening. Tell us about how you began with them as a creative director slash brand ambassador.
yeah, so I started with them when they before they had started Watermelon. So, MPI, Hamza and Badia's father and uncle started MPI in 1976, which I think is amazing. Palestinians have been creating amazing spaces for themselves since the 70s. So they started MPI in 1976, and their Hamza and Badia took it over. And my brother and Vin Arfusos made a movie called Walled Off. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's phenomenal. I think it's like Palestine for the TikTok generation. Um, And, they were bringing it on, and Vin brought me in to meet them, so that I could help with the kind of creative direction for the rollout of Waldorf. And they brought me the idea of Watermelon Pictures while we were in conversation, and I said, "Sign me up. Like, put me in. How can I help? What can I do?" And we started talking about it, and a team was formed, and Watermelon Pictures was created. And it was honestly one of the most, I think I cried every single day because I was happy tears because I had never seen Palestine represented in this way. And so it was one of the most beautiful experiences to help create Watermelon Pictures. And I just feel very honored to be part of the team. And what we've accomplished in a year is was like on our 5 year kind of trajectory, and so we're very proud of ourselves for what we've done and how hard we've hustled, and we're a quite small team, with a lot of power, I think.
That's amazing. We had recently Badia and Hamza on, and
I
they
know.
told us about all their journey, and we talked a little bit about Hollywood bias for you growing up. What were some of the memories you had about watching Hollywood movies, watching movies where you were like, this is not us.
I mean, I think it was always in the background. There was so much, role playing, characterization, dehumanization was always in the background. You know, the Arab was always the terrorist, the taxi driver, the or they were the like good one who helped you from the other terror. It was never, it was such a slight subconscious dehumanization and then sometimes so heavy-handed. And it was very interesting to watch back a lot of the things that I watched as a kid, I've watched recently, and to see the subconscious dehumanization of Arabs and Muslims and Palestinians and all sorts of people, the like overt xenophobia and Islamophobia that is throughout Hollywood has really hit me, and I've seen it in everything from kids TV shows to adult dramas. So it's always been there, and so we've been brainwashed. The world has been brainwashed. They don't talk about it in school, but in movies, you see it every time, and that's that soft power that really changes the narrative. And so we've been kind of pushing back on that supposed power that has really made us into non-humans.
It was super exciting when Watermelon Pictures came out and said, "Hey, we're here. We're gonna be offering, our own movies, our own narrative." What are some of your favorite Palestinian movies or songs or brands that you are inspired by?
I mean, that's like asking what my favorite child is. I mean, like I said, there are so many. The amazing thing about Watermelon Plus, and that's not just to plug it, is that there's so much to see. And I'm even like I'm watching on our own platform films that I haven't seen yet.
Mhm.
But I think some of the ones that I think are amazing are, Janine Janine, um, uh, obviously Walled Off I love. I think Five Broken Cameras, which we have, which is a phenomenal film speaking about journalism in Palestine. I think that there are so many films. What we want more of is those amazing films, and that we're trying to create are these amazing films that really touch you that just happen to be Palestinian.
Right, right.
And I think that that is gonna be something that is going to truly change the narrative when someone sees a film and just loves it and falls in love with it, and, everyone in the film is Arab or Palestinian, the director is, and the production company is, and that is something we've been striving for and we're really excited about.
Mhm. So would you say that's one of your dreams for Watermelon Pictures? Like, to have
It's in the
to be able
works. We're working on it.
is there anything else that you say, "Oh, it would be amazing if we could do this?"
Yeah, I want watermelon romantic comedy. I want a Palestinian, dating show. I want, like, Palestinian Love Island.
Ooh,
That
okay. Well, we
that's what I want that, there's already been, Love Is Blind, the, like, Arab version, but
yeah.
I want, like, some fun, exciting where everyone just happens to be Palestinian. I think that would be so amazing. It would make for phenomenal television and, like, I wanna
That
we're
would be
not in the
really
process of
interesting.
making that, but that is a goal for me.
We had, Maysoon Zayed on, quite a while back, and she's working on a parody though,
Okay,
of like a dating
show.
show, dating game show to
I
be
want the
set in
real thing.
Palestine.
I
You
want the
want the real thing.
drama and the fun and the love and whatever. I want all of that. That is that's the full spectrum of Palestinians. We're
Mm.
funny, we're fun, we love, and I think that we deserve to for all of it to be shown. If everywhere else gets it, why can't we have it?
That's true. And what about like favorite design brands that are Palestinian or
Oh god, there's so many. Pali Roots is amazing. Wear the Peace is amazing. I feel like those I love the, ANZ. They are, I feel like there's so many, brands that are really platforming Palestine and then also giving back. I also think it's important that it's also not a necessity. Um, I think it's important to say that Palestine isn't always a charity and that Palestinians deserve to succeed and we deserve to be successful and that Palestine isn't just a charitable function of something. It doesn't always have to be about charity. Yes, of course, it's important for us to give back, but to make an amazing product and for that to be Palestinian, I think is important. Yeah, sorry, like Empire Records was founded by a Palestinian, but he didn't found it, excuse me, on the basis of it being Palestinian. He wanted to make an amazing record company, and he did.
mm,
And
mm,
he's a Palestinian. I think that's also important.
mm,
We're
mm,
okay. It's okay for us to use our intellect and our ability to be successful, and it doesn't always have to be about charity.
it's
Um,
important for people to keep that in mind because I think, especially, a couple of years ago when people would be designing things, and, they would be asked like, "Oh, which charities is going to?" And they'd say, None." There was kind of like, "Oh, you're gonna do this for profit." So I think it's important for people to keep that in mind that it's okay. It's okay to build your brand and promote
Well,
your
also,
product.
we are Palestinian, and we
Mm,
have been maligned in being Palestinian for a very long time.
yeah.
And so, in order to create these spaces, yeah, we live in a capitalistic hellscape, and there's nothing we can do about it now. People need to make money to live, and we are creating products that are Palestinian, and they need support, and you need money to do that. We don't live in a utopia. That's the reality. Um, but I also think that it's important for people to understand that it's okay to be successful. And we are constantly oppressed people are constantly asked why they are trying to be successful. And it's important. It's important for us to get to that space and place and to do it while saying we are Palestinian and do it while saying, we are Muslim or Christian or Arab or what it's okay. We deserve it. And, that's not to say that charity isn't important, but Palestinians aren't charity cases. We are put in a position of necessity. We are incredibly successful and incredibly smart and incredibly capable. We are being forced into a position of necessity. We don't need it. We are being forced into a place of need. And so to not allow Palestinians to be successful is to keep us in a place of we are only a charity case. We want to be able to create the money that will go back into what a free Palestine looks like. And I think that's also quite important.
So how can these, for example, these Palestinian fashion brands that you mentioned, how can they make it mainstream? How can we get Tatriz into the Chloe fashion show, for example?
I mean, I think they are, and I would suggest that we don't get Tetris into the Chloe fashion show, because we have been co-opted for so long. So many brands have used the keffiyeh, Tetris, and not given it its due, not said that this is Palestinian, and not explained to people that what they're buying and what they're buying into and what they're admiring is Palestinian culture and ethnicity. And so I want a Chloe type brand that is Palestinian. And we have some of those now. We have amazing Palestinian designers who are putting their designs on runways. And we need to, instead of, putting our money into a brand that is co-opting Palestinian culture, we need to spend our money on Palestinian brands that are highlighting Palestinian culture. And I think that in doing that and people thinking that it's cool, then, it becomes mainstream. Let's let those brands become mainstream and not try to insert Palestinian culture into already mainstream brands.
So
Yeah.
when we achieve our ultimate goal, what do you see yourself, Alana, doing creatively? Back to fashion, continuing to be a voice?
Hopefully, I will not have to be an activist. I would love to not, I envision a world where I don't have to be an activist, that where we actually take care of each other, and the necessity for us to advocate for ourselves or other people doesn't exist. I would love for every person to be advocating for every person. That's what freedom looks like for me. I would love to be able to, you know, open a boutique in a free Palestine, and and do that. But I envision Watermelon Pictures always existing, because I think that there always need to be platforms for voices. I just hope that those voices aren't marginalized anymore.
Yeah, I hope so too. What
Yeah.
other projects or boards are you involved in? Anything that you'd like to mention to our listeners?
Um, Actually, Janan and I are writing a book.
Mm.
It's We are writing a book together. It's about Palestine. It's actually aimed at 9 to 15-year-olds, but I think it's an important book for anyone. It's the history of Palestinians and how they ended up coming to America, and why. So we are in the process of doing that. I think it's about a year away though, because, writing a book takes a long time.
Yes.
Um, I have the Seeds podcast that I love and I'm very excited about. I'm not currently on any boards because I don't have the bandwidth beyond the advocacy that I'm already doing and Watermelon Pictures, but I work with a ton of amazing charities, and I suggest going to my Instagram and looking at the donation highlight, and you'll see all of the different amazing charities I work with, from Palestine all the way to Sudan and Congo.
That's good to know. Speaking
Yeah.
of, what is Landsy Bear?
Oh, that's what my mom called me when I was a baby. And when I started my Instagram, a lot of people were just using their nicknames. And so I used my nickname. I didn't realize that Instagram was going to be anything more than just a place you put your photos. And so, yeah, the fact that people call me that now is really funny, because it's what my mom called me when I was a little kid. So now everyone calls me Lonzy, and I think it's really funny because it was only meant to be a thing between my mom and I, but now it's my name, and I'm very happy about it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people have, learned a lot watching you, been
Mm,
inspired,
thank you.
been driven to be more courageous and just themselves and unapologetic. uh, I think it's you're a very, very important role model for a lot of
Thank
people. I
you.
hope that you recognize that. And
Thank you.
we're super excited about Watermelon Pictures and everything that it stands for.
Thank you.
So yeah, we're excited to see what else develops in the coming
Thank
future.
you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to say to anyone who feels alone, sometimes this is a lonely fight. When you feel alone, just look out to the streets. There are millions and millions of people around the world who are in this fight together. And so when you feel alone, just know that you're not. We're all together in this. Thank you so
That's a
much.
great note to end on. Thank you so much, Alana. Thanks for your time and
Thank you for having me.
yeah,
And free Palestine.
free Palestine. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Tarwida, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the best of Palestinian arts and culture. For more information, please follow us on social media and don't forget to subscribe. Salam.